Tommy Fountain, would you say the invocation for us, please, sir?
Thank you, Mayor, and it's a joy to be with you. I do want to say with Coach Reach and all these guys being here, it's just really exciting for me to be able to pray. I do want to remind you of a passage of Scripture out of the book of Romans, chapter 13, verse 1 says, "Let every soul be subject to the governing authorities, for there is no authority except from God, and the authorities that exist are appointed by God." And we're grateful for this Christmas season for you guys and gals, and thank you for your leadership. And so let's pray together and ask the Lord to bless during this time. Father, I want to first of all thank you for how that you have worked in Coach Reach's life and the touching of his wife, Amy, and that, Lord, we think of Christmas as a time of miracles, and, Lord, Amy Reach is a miracle. And, Lord, those who have been walking beside of him, not only as adults, but even our student athletes, we just thank you. And, Lord, we have praised you often for how that you've worked in her life and you've touched her. Lord, I also want to thank you for this city council here, and I want to ask that you be with every one of them. Lord, I pray that every decision that they make will always be in accordance to your will, and I ask that you be with our mayor. I thank you for his energy. I thank you for his enthusiasm. I thank you for his leadership. Lord, I look around this room, and I was able to see police officers and those who help us in public safety. I want to pray for them tonight, and I want to thank you for them, and I want to thank you that, Lord, every one of us are subject to those who are in authority over us or those who lead us. And so, Lord Jesus Christ, tonight I pray that everything in this room will be done decently and in order, and I pray that you will bless this city council. I want to thank you as I close tonight for a city like Monroe, where we can enjoy not only the great downtown area, but we can enjoy the friendships, we can enjoy the times together, we can celebrate the coming of our Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. So we pray a special blessing upon this session tonight and ask that you help us all act accordingly. Lord, help us to have that spirit of Christmas, help us to have that joy, and to always realize that we have been able to experience that special gift from you, and we thank you for that. You're a great God. We love you, and we praise you. In Jesus' name, amen.
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 Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, Tommy Fountain is the pastor at 1025 Church. The reason I invited him here tonight, we have a little bit of Monroe area on our agenda, so we're going to have him scoot out here to actually go to another Monroe area game after we do the reading and listen to the chorus sing. So if you have not found a church home, Tommy's your guy because he's really, he goes out of his way to build community within his church and build church within the community. So thanks, Tommy. Call this meeting to order, the Monroe City Council for December 14th. I appreciate your all being here. This is not our regular size crowd, so I'm sorry many of you have to stand, but I'm really glad you're here. Let the record reflect that all members of council are present, save Ms. Crawford. We do expect her to be a little bit late tonight. She had a family emergency. I need a motion for the approval of the agenda, please.
So moved.
I have a motion by Mr. Ross Bradley. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Larry Bradley. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, like sign. Motion carries, that passes. Moving to the approval of the consent agenda. These are the council minutes from last month, Planning Commission, Historic Preservation, Downtown Development, so on and so forth, the dedication of Grand Haven Sewer Pump Station. I need a motion for approval of the consent agenda, please.
Move to approve.
A motion by Mr. Little. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Ms. Malcolm. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, like sign. Motion carries, that passes. Now, our first team from Monroe tonight, I need the Monroe High School Choral Canes to come on up front, if you don't mind, please. Now, I did share on my Facebook a month or so ago, from the last time y'all were here. You kind of have a tendency to bring tears to people's eyes, and I appreciate your talents, and I'm actually very jealous. This group came and sang at our groundbreaking for the new downtown green, which reminded me to invite them to tonight's event. So, ladies, if you would, please.
Thank you so much. I'm Sharon Crenshaw. I have been in Monroe area for 4 years. And when I came, the theme was Why Walk with You. Let me tell you, I loved it. This is year 37 for me in teaching, and this is the best place I've ever worked. I love Monroe Area High School, and I love these kids, and I cannot wait to show them off to you. You're going to enjoy this so much. So, jingle bells in so many different ways. I hope you enjoy it. Jingle, 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 jingle. Jingle, 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 jingle bells, ring them jingle bells. Jingle bells, jingle all the way. Oh, what fun it is to ride in a one-horse open sleigh. Jingle bells, jingle all the way. Oh, what fun it is to ride in a one-horse open sleigh. Through the snow, open sleigh, fields we go. Hey, 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 hey. Ring-a-ling, favorite spot is to sing a sleighing song tonight. Jingle bells, jingle all the way. Oh, what fun it is to ride in a one-horse open sleigh. Jingle bells, jingle all the way. Oh, what fun it is to ride in a one-horse open sleigh. The holidays are near. We want to have some fun. On the run, jingle bells are great, but a sleigh ride just Jingle bells, jingle all the way. Oh, what fun it is to ride in a one-horse open ba-doo-ba-doo-ba-doo-ba. All the way. Oh, what fun it is to ride in a one-horse open sleigh. Ring them bells, jingle bells. Take a ride, one horse is pulled open, la la, read. La 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 la, la 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 la, ring them bells, them jingle, jingle, oh jingle bells. Listen, you can hear the sound, spreading cheer throughout the town. Come on, everybody, ring them bells. Jingle and jangle and jingle and jangle and jingle, jingle and jangle and jingle and jangle and jingle, jingle and jangle and jingle and jangle and jingle, jingle bells ring, good news all the way. Oh, what fun it is to ride in a one-horse open sleigh. Jingle and jangle and jingle and jangle and jingle, jingle bells ring, good news all the way. Oh, what fun it is to ride in a one-horse open sleigh. Jingle, jingle, ring them bells.
Thank you, Ms. Crenshaw. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Y'all have a great night. Appreciate your being here. Next, we'll move to the Monroe Area High School proclamation. Is Coach Reach in that? Hey, Coach. Eli Connell. Come on. I'll read while y'all walk. How's that? It's a proclamation honoring the Purple Hurricanes from the Monroe Area High School 2021 8 AAA football champions. Whereas the hard work, dedication, sportsmanship, talent, and exceptional team chemistry. Hey, gentlemen, thank y'all for coming. Of the 2021 Monroe Area High School football team has enabled these student athletes to earn a region championship title. And whereas winning the 2021 Region 8 AAA Georgia High School Association State Championship brought honor, supposed to say region championship, don't blame me for typos, to honor to Monroe Area High School in the city of Monroe and put fear in the hearts of our competitors across our great state. Whereas head coach Kevin Reach and the entire coaching staff, team, member, parents, faculty, and student body at the Monroe Area High School were integral in guiding the team to victory through their unwavering support. And whereas Pray for Amy, One Heartbeat became more than just hashtags and became a way of life. The Purple Hurricanes were undefeated through the regular season and contributed to an excitement never before seen in the city of Monroe. Now therefore, I, John Stuart Howard, Mayor of the City of Monroe, Georgia, do hereby recognize and heartily congratulate Monroe Area High School and the 2021 AAA Championship Football Team on its outstanding accomplishment. In witness whereof, I, John S. Howard, have hereunto set my hand and caused to be affixed the great seal of the City of Monroe, Georgia, on this 14th day, December, the year of our Lord, 2021. Coach, thank you. Awesome, Coach.
Real quick, 'cause I know y'all got a lot of business going on, and I want to thank the city council for having that, and thanks for that. But,
Yes, sir.
I want to brag on these guys a little bit this year. We ended up winning the region championship, and the 5 years that we've been at Monroe, we've won 50 football games, so that's about 10 a year. But this year was special. We ended up going 11-1. Now, if you don't win the last game of the season, you're never happy. But we did go 11-1, and for the first time in school history, we were ranked number 1 in the state. We weren't even ranked at the beginning of the year, and then we just kept, through the pecking order, ended up being the number 1 team in the state going into the state playoffs. But very proud of these young men. Very proud of the city of Monroe, and I'll tell you this, I am proud to be a Monroe Hurricane.
Tommy, they make you look small. Thank you, gentlemen. Congratulations. Okay, moving to the resolution from Bruce Williamson from the House of Representatives, State of Georgia. This is a resolution recognizing November 30th, 2021 as Monroe Bicentennial Celebration Day, and for other purposes, whereas the City of Monroe, Georgia will celebrate its bicentennial in the year of 2021, and it's fitting to recognize the City of Monroe on the occasion of this special milestone and to applaud its distinguished history. And whereas in 1820, Elisha Betts of Virginia offered a gift of land for county buildings, private and public cemeteries, and 6 acres surrounding Spring Place, this being a public gathering place for citizens in the surrounding community, and suggested to name the town Monroe in honor of James Monroe, 5th President of the United States. And whereas the City of Monroe was officially incorporated on November 30th, 1821 to serve as the county seat of Walton County, Georgia, and whereas in the 20th century, Monroe became a bustling cotton mill town, attracting local industries and building a strong business presence from one end of town to the other. And whereas the city is known as one of Georgia's most civil-minded and cultured smaller cities, proudly proclaiming the honor of being the city of governors, having furnished 7 citizens to serve as governor of Georgia and 1 as the governor of Texas. Whereas the city today is composed of 14,982 residents, has a total area of 15.36 square miles, and provides many facilities and attractions, including an award-winning downtown, beautiful city parks, historic districts, and premier municipal services. And whereas the city of Monroe will proudly mark its 200th anniversary with a series of celebrations, including historic walking tours, an essay contest, the Bicentennial Christmas Parade, and the Downtown Green groundbreaking and time capsule burial, all culminating on November 30th, 2021, with a 200th birthday party at City Hall. And whereas in recognition of the city of Monroe's rich history and enduring contributions, it is indeed an honor to pay tribute to this city upon the occasion of its bicentennial. Now therefore be it resolved by the House of Representatives that the members of this body recognize Tuesday, November 30th, 2021 as Monroe Bicentennial Celebration Day, and join the citizens of the city of Monroe in celebrating this auspicious occasion. Be it further resolved that the clerk of the House of Representatives is authorized and directed to make appropriate copies of this resolution available for distribution to the public and the press, in-house, read and adopted November 19th, 2021. William L. Riley, clerk. Did that all in just a couple of breaths. Moving to the public forum for public comments tonight, do I have a list? Mike Hawks from River Point. Hey, Mr. Hawks, how are you? How are you girls? Good.
As a longtime citizen of Whatcom County, having lived here for 50 years, owning property up and down Double Spring Church Road, we just have to come to you guys and just say, we need to think about the River Point subdivision. Coming in, putting in 300 plus houses in that area. I don't know that the city's ready for infrastructure-wise. I don't know if your sewers are ready, your water. I mean, I happen to be in construction supply. I mean, good luck getting transformers for the next year. I mean, that's pretty much. In addition to that, we need to look at what it's going to do to Double Springs Church Road. That's a small country road. It's windy down through there. I mean, 300 houses, you're putting 600 or 700 additional cars onto that road. I mean, what's that going to do to the quality of life of the people that live there? I mean, not to mention the traffic. I mean, there's already a number of wrecks that occur on that. There's 2 90-degree turns on that road. That's putting a tremendous amount of traffic. And we just want to come as a community and say, I just think you guys need to think about, what we're about to do in our community there. Okay?
Yes, sir. Thank you. Thank you for coming out. Billy Coleman. Hey, Billy.
Appreciate the few minutes I've got tonight to speak in front of you. First of all, congratulations. Great year. A lot going on in 2021. A lot to deal with. So, but just to get right to the point, I need to get a clarification on the moratorium that was passed. I've received conflicting information from the council and from the staff, and I'm not sure if this has been approved, voted on, and is in place. The time frame, we have one email that says that it was being effective until 2023. So in the short time, one, I need a clarification, and then secondly, consideration for my application. Based upon the facts and based upon the evidence that we've been able to gather from our engineer, we sent an email the day before the moratorium with an attached preliminary plat and asked for any further information that would be needed, and specifically put in here that we would like to get this over to you today on the 6th, and got a response on the 8th. So, I just am asking, one, for clarification, then secondly, for consideration, and then lastly, I don't think it's too much to ask the council to just consider tabling all of this preliminary plat approvals you've got on the agenda for tonight until clarification can be understood as to how this was rolled out. If there was any previous information shared with any of these developers that we weren't privy to. I mean, we were this close and then stonewalled. And so if we could just get some clarification and consideration, I mean, the staff's done an excellent job. You read the resolution, and they followed it down to a T. So that it really doesn't fall on the staff. It's the council that made the resolution last Tuesday, and we would just like to get some clarification on, was the information shared? Was it public knowledge? Was there private knowledge? And then if there could just be a look at our application that was presented on a project that we started back in March of this year, working and corresponding back and forth with the city on a project that was actually approved in 2006. And then we picked back up in beginning of this year, and again, we've got the correspondence documented. I know I only have 5 minutes, but other than that, the city's doing a great job trying to work through the difficulties of this work environment.
Right,
Thank you.
thank you.
Appreciate
And we did, just keeping you in the loop, we did vote last week, and it is a 6-month moratorium. And good news, bad news, we're 60 weeks out with transformers right now. So that's
Brian called,
half.
and I appreciate
So-
that. That's
on
great.
the reviews, when it comes to layouts and plats and the informal stuff, Brad and mainly Brad, but Brad and Patrick are going to be your guys on that. And we will have further discussion about any individual items that may come up, because I don't want to go, "No, well, absolutely not tonight," or absolutely yes, and be wrong. We'll review that. And we'll talk amongst ourselves separately, so there won't be a quorum.
Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you, Billy. Frank Masillo. Hey, Frank, thank you for coming.
Evening, gentlemen.
Good evening.
Not a very good public speaker, but here I am again.
You're fine.
I don't want to duplicate the issues that Mr. Hawks just hit you with, but where I want to go with this is that I believe that the two areas that we're talking about with the subdivision and development, I severely believe that we need to put the horse in front of the cart instead of the cart in front of the horse. I have 3 grandchildren, and they're all very active in sports. Every park we've been to is overcrowded. You got to walk a mile to get to the game unless you're there 2 hours before. And I think this is where we need to go. These 2 areas are so critical because we've already, now we got the Publix supermarket. We got all the development that's going to happen around it, which is going to be commercial. We got the school. We got the school board. Got a YMCA. We got a retirement facility that's coming. We severely need to use our smarts and put parks first. Okay, we got to put, because when the development does come, got to have a place for these kids to go. Our schools have got to be able to contain them. Where are they going to go now? I mean, we're talking between what's platted on between the city and the county, almost 500 homes in that area. And like Mike said, you've seen our roads. It's small little country road. I mean, and just prior to this development that was announced, I mean, there was a wedding venue that was going to be put down on Double Springs Church Road on a really bad point. It got, although the gentleman pulled his application, but it was because it had no support because of all the county commissioners realizing that it's unsafe, especially when you mix alcohol into the deal from the parties that were going to be there. Now, we're only talking 1.5 miles down the road, okay? And we're looking at 500 homes, and I believe that I would say you could average, 2 cars per home. In some cases, it'll be 3 because there'll be a kid driving. And I just think that our community in this area is going to be overwhelmingly impacted with the amount of traffic, congestion, and what we deal with now. So I know that this thing has been platted for a development or whatever for years, but the way they're around it, I guess, and from my study is there's one thing that you all can do, and you can use your power of eminent domain for the good of everybody in this city and the county. I am a little disappointed that, and I don't know because I didn't look at everybody, but there is no county commissioners here that know about this problem or will back us up on this. I mean, I'm not throwing anybody under the bus, but city and county are two different deals. Let's make a historic agreement between the city and the county. Let's make something that can make the news saying that, hey, let the city and the county came together and made recreational parks. And I'd like to ask somebody, because I don't know, is there any horse parks in Walton County? I know there's one down the road in Gwinnett, okay? The one plat where this River Point's gonna be. I don't know how many of you've been on the property. I have. I was gonna lease it one time, and I got invited to go around it, you know, when I was gonna lease it for hunting. It's gorgeous, absolutely gorgeous. God created something that was incredible all the way to the river over there. And this is the area where I believe that this horse park that I'd like to see for the county, the city, or whatever, put aside, save it. I mean, we already got all that development that's going to be happening from Publix supermarkets to us. Really what's separating us from this is, I mean, Morgan's Crossing subdivision is in the county. It's a line from the city to the county. And I was just hoping that it would be a good feathering point because, I mean, there's people in our area that have property. We're all on wells. We're concerned about contaminated groundwater. And basically, like I said, I don't want to repeat myself, and the traffic and everything that it's gonna entail. And I just want to thank you for your time, and I hope everybody has a Merry Christmas.
Thank you, Mr. Masello. Have a Merry Christmas. Becky Brewer. Thank you for coming. How are you?
I apologize. I didn't know what I'm about to ask, and I was just hoping that maybe the people here could explain to me about the school over on 611
Okay,
Davis.
but before you, are you talking about the school that's coming up?
Yes.
We're going to discuss in a little bit.
Yes.
Don't have to worry about public comment on that. We'll talk about that, and you'll see.
So everything's going to be discussed, and
Oh, yes, ma'am.
okay, that's all I needed to know. Was just
Right.
So just hang out with you.
Right. I mean, unless you want to say just something about how awesome it is or how much. I mean,
Well, I think
no.
it'll be a good thing. It's just that I am just now finding out that 611 on that parcel, that the house was completely torn down and cleared. And then I know about the day school, and then the property that used to be the old baseball field many years ago. If the city sold all that property, I'm just curious as to how all of this is going to unfold with the land right
Yeah,
now.
well,
That's
yeah,
it.
we'll discuss everything.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Becky. Thank you for coming. I think that's it for public comment. Move to the public hearing, the rezone annexation for 1167 Gulfview Terrace and 0 Oakland Ridge. Mr. Kelly?
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Like I said, this is a rezone application and annexation for that property. The applicant, the Gogas, are looking to bring that property into the city in order to consolidate their land and put it all in the city at the same time.
Thank you, Mr. Kelly. Are there any questions for Patrick? Hearing none, I'll declare this portion of the meeting open. Is there anyone here who'd like to speak in favor? Yes, ma'am. Your name, ma'am?
I am Diane Goga. I own the property.
It's a familiar last name.
Goga. Goga.
Yes, ma'am.
I bought the county lot. As you can see, the city lot is in that little triangle there. I'm a gardener, and a gardener never has enough land, okay?
Right.
So the lot next to us, which is in the county, was vacant. So I bought the lot to put a garden there. And my sweet husband put a gazebo there. And I thought, I need a shed to put all of my stuff in it, a she shed. So I put the she shed there and came up to the city to get electricity and water put in it. And they said, you can't. The only thing you're allowed to have there is a single-family home. I'm thinking, well, who knew? I thought when I bought it, I could do anything I wanted to on that county lot. So what I am requesting is that we combine the county lot and the city lot to make it into one larger city lot. And by doing so, the shed, it's the accessory building, will be associated with the principal structure, which is our house. The size of my she shed is 448 square feet, which is allowable on property size of a half an acre to 0.99 acres. The size of the combined county lot and city lot together is 0.72 acres. That's not even 1 acre combining those two.
Right.
So that's all we want to do.
That is perfect. Are there any questions for Ms. Goga? Thank you, ma'am. Thank you for
All
coming.
right, my question is, can I go to the city tomorrow and get electricity and get a permit?
Well, we'll act on it in a minute, and then I'll say yes or no.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming. Is there anyone here who'd like to speak against the rezone? Hearing none, we'll declare that portion of the meeting closed, and we'll be back to revisit in just a moment. Moving to the conditional use for 611 Davis Street, Mr. Kelly.
Yes, sir, thank you. Just like you said, it's a request for a conditional use for a school on the property at 611 Davis Street in order to expand the Monroe Country Day School. City staff recommends approval of the requested conditional use, as did planning and zoning.
Thank you. Are there any questions for Patrick? Okay, I'll declare this portion of the meeting open for public input. Is there anyone who would like to speak in favor of this conditional use? Yes, ma'am, you can. Ms. Dickinson? And while you're walking up, I believe we have someone on council will be recusing himself.
I'm recused from any discussion of the matter.
Thank you.
This was a rental house that Harry Arnold owned, and I bought the rental house from him. Our intention was to keep the house, but then once I had contractors look at the house, there were issues that it really could not be repaired. Bathrooms have been added on. I'm not sure if those were porches or just little things that were added onto the house, but the sewage was not hooked up properly, and there were just all sorts of issues. Walls had been taken out, other walls had been put in, things were on different levels as far as the floor, and it was just determined that it would be easier just to tear it down and start over. Unfortunately, it had not really been maintained in a way that we could then use it. As you know, if it's used in any way for school, it has to meet certain standards and all. So right now, we have not said anything more than we would like to put some playground equipment on the back of it that the kids could play on and all, but we have not actually come up with a plan. It would not be used for elementary age children. It would probably just be a building that we put there that looked somewhat like a house from Davis Street, but would have probably 4 classrooms in it so that we could house our middle school and high school in the building.
Okay. Are there any questions for Ms. Dickinson? Thank you for coming in.
Does you want to ask me questions, or
Well,
you,
Becky,
or
would
can
you
she?
have a question? Oh, well,
I have a long-term lease on it.
Okay. What about the property directly behind it? Now, does that go with the property?
is that the property you bought?
No, she's talking about, y'all own that whole
Okay.
piece of land from Church Street to Davis Street.
One piece.
Because I know where you're talking about, used to be But now, when they put in that parking lot, when they redid the building, the parking lot actually comes back. It's not showing on that picture, but it actually comes back into part of that. But part of that, what was the ball field is still there. I mean, it's just,
Right, but the lease is one piece of property.
yes.
Right.
So are there any future plans that, I mean, I'm not against this, don't get me
Yeah.
wrong, I just don't know.
Right. Well, I want to put a greenhouse back there on the side. Do you know where the Boy Scout hut was? Back behind the Boy Scout hut, we want to put a greenhouse. Pam Oakley Nix teaches agriculture at our school, and so we'd like to have a greenhouse so she could do that type of thing.
You can have a she shed.
Yes, it would be a big she shed.
That's excellent. So where will the entrance to the new school be? Will the entrance be coming through on Church Street, or will you maintain the driveway there?
Well, I think that the city will make me put in, I don't know this, but I think they'll make me put in an entrance from Davis Street. But we plan on just having a walkway where the kids, right now, when the cars come through, they come through that back parking lot, that they would just stop and the kids would just get out and use the walkway and go into the back of that building that would be on Davis Street. We are not planning on having cars on Davis Street.
Okay?
I mean, as long as everything, I mean, we hadn't got far enough along to know what's approved or not approved.
Thank you, Rita. We'll be back
Okay.
to approve or not approve it in a moment. Is there anyone here who'd like to speak against it? We'll revisit that in just a second. Excuse me. Moving to the Corridor Commission Appeal of 1000 East Spring Street. Mr. Kelly?
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is an appeal of the Planning and Zoning Commission's decision to deny a COA in the corridor, acting as a Corridor Design Overlay Commission as well. So that decision is being appealed by the applicant, Mr. Atha, and his attorney, Mr. Benton.
Thank you. Are there any questions for Patrick? Hearing none. Mr. Atha, Mr. Benton? Let you say a little bit, and then I'll open it up for public input.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Mayor. And members of the City Council, I appreciate the opportunity to come today to speak to you on behalf of Gerald Ather, who's here tonight, in his appeal of the decision of the, I'll call it the COA appeal, the Corridor Commission. Is that correct? Yes. Number one, our position is that the property's not in the overlay district. And the reason I say that is Mr. Atha, when he purchased the property based on a plat that was recorded in Plat Book 10, page 86. It was recorded in 1962. It was entitled Property of Eugene Kelly, designated at lots 15, 16, 19, and 20 of the J.H. Felker Estate subdivision. So the property where we want to place the building actually has a Hammond Street address or Hammond Drive address. And so our position is it's not even in the corridor. The corridor is any property that abuts or touches Spring Street in this situation, and Broad Street, but in this situation, West Spring Street. So our position is not even in the corridor. But if you do find it's in the corridor, we say that a COA is not required. And the reason we say that is section 643.4, subsection 3B says if there's a minor change, there's no requirement for a COA. What we're asking for is the same thing that happened on August 8th, 2017, when the City of Monroe issued permit 1700359 for a storage shed on this property. We're asking for the same consideration tonight, and therefore we say the COA is not required. However, if a COA is required, if you look at your statute for the overlay district, in section 641.1 is the preamble or purpose and intent for the overlay district, and it sets out what it's for. If you look at 643.1, the purpose is to protect highway corridors, and in this case, the highway corridor is Spring Street. The primary goal is to protect the character of the gateways, and so when you come into the city of Monroe, y'all enacted this ordinance to help when you drive in the city of Monroe. It enhances the look that you see when you come in. However, under 643.1, the city wishes to focus on compatibility such that new structures conform to community features, standards, and therefore you are intent not to create traffic, signage, or incompatible architecture. If you look at 643A1, architectural design should be influenced by tradition and traditional development patterns within the proper context. The context of which we're dealing with is property located, which used to be McGarity Ford years ago, and has been that way for over 50 years. 643A1C says design should be integrated in with its surroundings. So let's talk about what the intent of this overlay is and what's happening here. If it is in the corridor, which we disagree, you cannot even see the property where we're going to put the building or where we're asking to put the building. You can't even see it from Spring Street. So the gateway to the city is not affected at all. It will not create a traffic issue because this is just going to be a storage shed for existing building, which is a used car lot. And this is to have a storage shed so it has inside storage as opposed to outside storage, which will enhance the property by having inside storage instead of materials laying outside. It's not going to be a traffic issue. There's no signage change. And then the other thing is incompatible architecture. The building that we're asking to be here is saying that you gave us a permit for in 2017. It will be the exact same building. If you look beside us, it's Monroe Motor Inn, there's metal warehouses. All the other buildings on this property are metal. You allowed right beside us a trailer to be put in on a property, I believe it's Dr. Plaster's office, or I don't know the name of her business, but I believe it's Dr. Plaster. There's a mobile home that is closer to the road than what we're asking for, and it is visible from the corridor when you come in the city of Monroe. So when you look at this, you should look at the context, where it is, and where it's located, and what's around it. And so when you do that in this situation, we're not making any changes to the corridor. Again, you can't see it. What's there is already there. I understand as the city goes forward, that would not be, and excuse me, Gerald, but that would not be what you would put there as the entrance with the metal building. But it's been there for over 50 years. That's not going to change. If you deny us tonight, those buildings will still be there. The design should be integrated with surroundings. Okay, if you make us put a brick building there, it will be the most out-of-place thing in that whole area. Because right across the street, again, is the storage, Monroe Motor Inn, and all our buildings are metal. Now, the COA was denied by the Planning Commission or the Corridor Commission. And Section 643.4, subsection 4B says it should only be denied if it substantially adversely affects the corridor. Substantially. It's a big burden on the mayor and council to deny this because these are property rights that Mr. Atha has to be able to build on his property. And for the city to stop that it has to be a substantial adverse effect on the corridor. Again, you can't see it from the road. It's compatible with all the buildings that are already located there. It's the same building that in 2017 that was permitted by the city of Monroe. Therefore, we respectfully request that you find, one, it's not in the corridor, and if you find that, then allow us to build the building. Or two, find that it's a minor change, just like it was found in 2017, and allow us to build the same building out of sight from the road. From, when I say the road, Spring Street, it will be visible from Hammond Drive, of course. Or if you find it's in the overlay district, find that it's not a substantial adverse effect on the corridor, and therefore you can approve it based on that. So I thank you for your time and allowing me to come up here on behalf of Mr. Ather. I'll take a point of personal privilege, if I may. I appreciate all y'all's service to the city of Monroe. I was here last week, and I forgot. I used to sit in Mr. Rosenthal's chair before he kicked me out of the chair. I think that's how that worked. But I remembered how much hard work y'all put in and how much time you spend on nights away from home, so I do appreciate y'all. And the other thing, it's very thankless service. So I'm not here to yell or scream like some others might, but I am begging. How about that?
Thank you, Judge Benton. Are there any, I'm going to say, are there any questions for Judge Benton?
I have some questions.
Okay. I'm sorry to let you get back there.
I'm back up here, Colonel.
All right.
Okay, so I have gone through the regulations in great detail, and I have some concerns about this situation. Putting aside the question of whether or not this particular tract is in the corridor, I understand what your argument is about that. Frankly, I think we probably need a legal opinion about that. But putting that aside, let's assume for a minute that it is in the corridor. I don't think I agree with you that this is a minor change, but I think I do agree with you that when we look at the overall purpose of the overlay for this corridor, the idea, as I understand it, is that we keep things compatible. And of course, everybody knows that's the old McGarrity Ford site. As you note, those buildings have been there for over half a century, probably, I don't even know how long, probably 3/4 of a century. So this idea that if we allowed this building to be built, would it materially change the way that corridor looks? That's what I want to ask you about. Because one of the other things that this set of regulations does, or is supposed to do, is to eliminate these big areas of what we call moonscape parking lots and things like chain link fencing in the middle of moonscape parking lots. Facilitates the development of pedestrian access in the form of sidewalks. It provides for landscaping to buffer these areas from the public streets. So my question is, if we did this, if we approved the building itself, can you tell me what Mr. Ather is willing to do in terms of these other things, in terms of isolating it from the street, for lack of a better term, cuting it up with some islands and trees and vegetation and that sort of thing? And somewhere in these regulations, there's a requirement to, I think, construct a sidewalk if it was approved. So can you answer that for me?
Well, at some point, it would be not cost-effective to do that, because the building is a not expensive building. However, the way I read it in these, and I've read them not as carefully as you have, and I wasn't here when y'all adopted the whole concept, I believe it was in 2014.
Wasn't it?
But it would be, in my reading of it, is it's more when you redo a whole thing instead of just add a small building to that to trigger all of these requirements. Again, in 2017, when he put the building there, there was no trigger to make all those requirements. To stop the moonscapes or the big shopping centers from coming in, that the old-time shopping centers with the parking in the front and the buildings in the front, well, in this case, the building is in the front on Spring Street. Believe it or not, that Ford is close to the front, and all the parking, or most of the parking's in the back. So that's kind of accomplished that by happenstance more than anything. But it is mostly asphalt out there. You're right about that. And it's not meeting the new standards of the new that you're talking about, but I think it'd be almost impossible to do that. I'd have to ask Mr. Eighth if he's willing to make some changes to do that, but we're talking about a building that's, I don't know, I hate to say, it's not just a few $1,000s. We're not talking about a real high, expensive thing. So if that triggers all that, that's going to be somewhat problematic.
Are there any other questions?
Well, I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
I believe there was a plan submitted by Mr. Atha when he came forward to ask permission to do this before it fell into the controversial state of whether this was in the quarter overlay or whatever. And at that time, it was determined there was enough room to put a buffer on the side, and I guess can we refer to him?
Yeah, we talked about that. You don't have that with you, do you? Okay, when he came before the code office and talked about it, this thing's been going on for a year. COVID hit, then there were health issues that he was dealing with in the family. So all that kind of put it on hold. So really, this has been about a 1.5-year process, right? So thank y'all for bringing it here and trying to get some resolution today. But when the code officer said it was an overlay district and we're not going to allow that, Mr. Athan went and said, well, before he found a plat that showed it was two things. But before that, he was thinking it was one tract. Okay. When he thought it was one tract, he was willing to subdivide it. And when he was willing to subdivide it, he was willing to put some green space around that. That said, it wasn't a lot, but he was willing to put it around it to try to buffer it up a little bit around that. And he made that offer to the city code office, and the code office said, you can't subdivide it. There were other reasons why you couldn't subdivide it, is what their position was.
Okay, that's where I
So that's when we stopped, or he stopped from the subdivision and making it separate. Then when we were preparing for the hearings, when he went, I said, I need a copy of how you bought it, the deed where you bought it, and the plat. And when we looked at the plat, it's two separate tracts, in our opinion on that. After we submitted that to the city, they still don't feel like it's two separate tracts. So we're at odds on that somewhat. But with it being a separate tract, it doesn't even come into overlay. And if it doesn't come into overlay, none of these requirements apply. And I think the city can grant exceptions to these because of the minor. I hear you disagreeing with me, and I understand why you disagree on the minor, minor change. The reason I say that, it was granted by the city as a minor change, because when I asked Mr. Kelly how he got that permit before, he said that was a minor change. So that's why I say it's a minor change, because we're willing to build the exact same building.
What does the tax map say? Is it?
Tax map says, I think it's one tract.
Okay.
But that said, this plat's been on record since the 60s. And I think a subdivision plat that's accepted by the city is grandfathered in, is our opinion on that.
I would agree with that.
I'm sorry, if you'd like to come forward and speak,
Yeah,
feel free.
No, that's fine.
Thank you. Are there any other questions? Thank you, Judge, appreciate it. Is there anyone here to speak against? Hearing none, we will move forward with that in just a moment. We're at comprehensive plan. Ms. Croswick, Mr. Probst?
Thank you, Mayor. We're kicking off our comprehensive plan. You got a little sneak peek of that last week, so Marilyn Hall is here to present the official kickoff tonight.
Thank you for coming, Marilyn.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here. You've heard of much of this before, but the folks behind me have not. My name is Marilyn Hall, and I am the city planner that has been chosen to help the city of Monroe develop its comprehensive plan. I'm here with Bobby Sills, who's also a city planner on my team. He comes down from Athens, and I come down from Watkinsville. And I love the city of Monroe. I love everything about it, except the high school broke my high school's undefeated season this year. I got to see them today in person. It's like, anyway, that was very cool. And so I'm here to kick off the public, well, actually the whole process of the comprehensive plan. And I'm going to be talking about what a comprehensive plan is and the importance of being involved in the community engagement program, why it's important, and opportunities for residents to be involved. I'm going to go over the schedule briefly and take any questions and comments that folks may have as appropriate. So first off, what is a comprehensive plan? It's a 20-year blueprint to guide growth in the city of Monroe. It will contain strategies and policies that will help guide future decision-making, and these will be related to zoning, capital facilities, services, really basic, all the things that the city does. And it seems especially relevant, given some of the conversations I've heard today, that it will provide documentation that the council and other decision makers can refer to when making decisions for zoning. And that's why it's very important that the public is involved in every aspect of the planning process. It is required to be updated every 5 years, and I say required, and that is because every qualified local government in the state of Georgia has to have a comprehensive plan updated every 5 years, and this is required by the Georgia Department of Community Affairs. Qualified local governments are able to have take advantage of funding opportunities and grants and low-interest loans through the state. These are the CDBG funding and things like GFO, which is the Georgia Environmental Finance Authority that affects utilities and things like that. The last comprehensive plan was in 2017, and it was sandwiched in with the Walton County Comprehensive Plan. This plan will look a little bit like that, but it won't be for the county, it'll be just for the city. In 2017, the county ran the plan, not the city. This time, the plan is for Monroe. It's not for the county, it's for the city. It's very specific. Of course, we'll pay attention to what's happening in Monroe and Metro Atlanta and the state, but this city will focus exclusively on the city of Monroe, development patterns in Monroe, demographics, housing, and things like that. There are 5 main components to the comprehensive plan. The first is issues and opportunities, and that is where the issues and opportunities in Monroe will be identified, and they will relate to the elements that I'm going to explain later. There will be an analysis of existing development patterns. We will analyze your land use map and help you develop a future land use map that includes areas that need special attention, as well as areas where you would like to develop the character of the area or enhance what's there or change it to make it better. There will be a section called Quality Community Objectives, and what those are best practices for planning and land use and other elements that are passed down from the state. However, the state is not telling you what to do. They're just saying these are best practices. You can choose from them should you want to. And so we will make recommendations based on the quality community objectives, and we'll talk about them throughout the process. We will also look at data and information that is existing and some projections. For example, we'll be looking at the new and updated census information. We'll be looking at technical data from Georgia Tech and the state, and economic information from other sources, compiling it and making sure what the comprehensive plan is consistent with the data and information that we've analyzed. And finally, and probably most important, is implementation strategies. In my opinion, the most important part of the plan is the 5-year short-term work program. It is a 5-year to-do list that it will include the things that the city needs to do over the next 5 years to help it aim for that vision that it has identified through the plan. It will include the responsible party, how much it's going to cost, where the money comes from, and a timeline. And what are we talking about here? Comprehensive plan elements. There are a bunch of them. Population, and that is what I talked about earlier, that's demographics. That will study the racial components of the city, the income, everything you could think of when you think of population and demographics, including population growth trends over the years and moving forward. We'll also do an economic development analysis of the city. It'll include wages, job information, industry information. We'll compile it and present it and use that to help develop our strategies, issues and opportunities, and whatnot. We'll also do a natural and cultural resources inventory, and that'll be kind of standard, but we do that to share it with residents to find out what's important, what natural and cultural resources need to be preserved, what needs to be enhanced, and where to focus the effort on improvements. And housing and neighborhood development is another element. What's the housing inventory like here? Is the housing quality up to snuff? Is there a variety of housing to serve the residents and future residents? And then utilities, infrastructure, and community facilities. We're going to look at everything from water and wastewater, broadband service, and community facilities, everything from libraries to public safety. And again, land use, already talked about that. We'll also cover transportation. That's exactly what you think it is. We'll look at the airport and talk about it at meetings, and road systems, trails and sidewalks, which brings us to another element, which is parks and recreation, which goes right into health and wellness. We'll talk about how the city infrastructure is affecting health and wellness of the residents, and also how moving forward, health and wellness can be incorporated into future decision-making. And how are we going to do this? I'm not just going to look at data and analyze things. I went to tech. I can spend all day underwater looking at numbers, but that's not my goal at all here. It is to pull in information from residents and stakeholders of the city of Monroe. We have a series of community engagement workshops where we will work with the community to develop a vision and strategies. There'll be a visioning workshop, a strategic framework workshop, and an open house. The visioning workshop is January 13th at 6 o'clock. You should all be there. And at that visioning workshop, we will help you guys develop a vision for where you want to be 20 years from now. And I do understand that the University of Georgia has done a really good outreach effort that included some surveys and some workshops relating to the branding. And we are not redoing that. This is different. We are going to be talking about quality of life, not image. So this is very different from that, but we will be building on it. We will be building on it. The next workshop is a strategic framework workshop where we will be presenting the draft visions, what we have been hearing from residents, and we will further refine that as well as really roll up our sleeves. It's very interactive. People will be drawing on maps, kind of identifying areas in the community that require special attention, what sorts of things would be good there, and some other activities. It's very interactive, and again, the more people that are there, the better and more robust the plan will be. Finally, the third community engagement workshop is an open house. You can think of it as if you've been to a career fair or a health fair. There will be stations set up, each one, and I don't know what this is going to look like yet because I don't know what's going to be in your plan because you all haven't told me yet. There might be a station on housing that'll show what the housing is like and where we want to be, where you guys want to be, and another one on economic development, another one on education, intergovernmental communications. I don't know. But what that'll be, it'll look like a health fair, and there will be either someone from the consulting team at each station or a city employee to help communicate with you, with the residents, answer questions, and take feedback. And that'll be an opportunity to provide good input into the plan. In addition to the community engagement workshops, we're going to have a variety of other things, and I'll be talking about each one of those. And these are additional strategies to pull in more information from the community. The first is monroe-compplan.com, which is live right now, because we had to wait till after this hearing to make it live. It's live right now. You go to this website and you see an interactive virtual meeting space. And if you, I don't know if this works. Oh, if you were to click on any of the displays or like the screens or the map or the things on the table there, you'd get to, for example, the participation survey. The participant survey is, if you were to click on that survey in the middle, you would get to the survey and you could take the survey. And I'm going to talk about the survey in a little bit. But my point is this is an interactive virtual workspace to develop the plan. And it'll supplement the public meetings. And it'll also work as an alternative to the public meetings for folks who can't make it. Another thing we're doing is there are flyers. I brought a bunch of flyers to this meeting, so you can take them with you. I'll put them at the door, on the table in the back. With QR codes, one takes you to the survey, the other to the virtual meeting room. There will be I'm gonna jump ahead to the surveys. 2 surveys, at least 2. The first is a visioning survey that's there right now, and it will provide an opportunity for folks to put their input as to what their vision should be, what they think Monroe should look like in 20 years. And once we compile all that data, we will put out another survey that goes into more detail, and it will talk about, maybe ask questions about housing or economic development or cultural resources, those types of things. Just a way to get more information and refine the things that we want to know. We have also done, in addition to what I've told you so far, we are going to have 2 additional big sources of input, and they are through our stakeholders. We're in the process of identifying a group of primary stakeholders. All the city council people are primary stakeholders, as well as leaders in the community, such as ministers, really anybody who has been identified as a leader of an organization that can help me pass out flyers to get people to the meetings. They will either serve on the steering committee or do interviews. We will be talking one-on-one with every city council person, and they will be talking to us about the committees that they oversee, as well as what the needs of their districts are and the city as a whole. We use this stakeholder identification graphic for other communities, but I feel like for Monroe, the most important thing to think about is the secondary stakeholders are really, as every resident of the city is a secondary stakeholder. They have a really vested interest in this plan and should be involved, should do the survey and or come to all the meetings if they can. General stakeholders, I think of those are folks that live in the county. They have a general interest in what happens in Monroe, but they don't live here. So we want people who live here to come to these meetings and participate, and business owners as well. Again, I talked about the surveys, and we're already at the timeline. When you talk about the timeline briefly, today is the public hearing. Get that little star at the top, December. We'll have the visioning workshop in January, again on January 13th. And in February is when the strategic framework workshop will be. In March will be the open house. And we will be submitting this to the state and the regional commission in April for their approval. And again, they won't deny the plan because they disagree with it. They might say just it's to check the boxes that the state requires. This is going to be much better than what the state requires. And by the end of June, the process should be wrapped up, and everyone in front of me should have a nice document with some guidance on on making decisions in the future. And so these are some important dates. We're obviously still working on a lot of them, most of them. That's why I keep saying January 13th, because that's the first public workshop. And here's some information about the workshop. And that's what I was here to present. So unless anybody has any questions.
I think you did great. Are there any questions?
Just wanted to reiterate, this is very important that everybody gets engaged in this growth and development discussion for the next 20 years. It's here. Everybody has an opinion one way or another. Your opinions on Facebook don't count. These surveys count. So please engage and let us know your opinions. Okay.
Are there any other questions for Ms. Hall? Is there anyone in the audience who would like to have input? I'll just say that I'll declare this portion of the meeting open for public comment. Is there anyone in the audience who'd like to speak about this? Yes, sir. If you don't mind, please come up front. That's okay. Thank you.
My name's Chris Gogo. I'm married to the lady that wants the she shed. You spoke of transportation. I get downtown just about every morning. I join friends for coffee and such, and I watch tractor-trailer rigs try to turn at the intersection of Spring Street and Broad Street, and I've watched that fire plug get taken out in front of the coffee shop a couple times over the last several years, and I've watched that curb in front of the courthouse get crushed many times over the last several years. And I was just wondering, under the subject of transportation, is there anything that is going to ever be done about the number of tractor-trailer rigs going through downtown Monroe, be it Broad Street or Spring Street, to try to reroute that so that the quality of life and health could be better for people that tend to be mowed down if they're trying to cross wrong on the streets and the amount of noise in the downtown area due to tractor-trailer traffic?
I'll jump on that one. The truck route budget lets in July.
Yes.
So as the day the truck route opens, that should eliminate about 90% of the trucks in town. Okay. Which will then eliminate about 90% of the noise.
Thank you, sir.
Yes, sir. Is there anyone else? Hey, Frank.
I don't mean to not look at you and ask her a question.
Oh, that's fine.
Now, you said the comprehensive plan is for the city. Okay, well, I live in the county, but what's happening in the city is like I spoke to before. What the city's doing is going to impact the people in the county by just a property line. So is there any kind of agreement with the county of a comprehensive plan? Is this, or do you look into the county, or do we just leave it, the city's doing what they're doing, and then let the county worry about what happens later?
Ms. Hall, if you don't mind, so because this is going to be recorded, if you don't mind, hop in front of a microphone.
You bring up a very good point, and the reason the city is doing its own plan is because the county plans don't adequately address the issues for the city, right? The Walton County will be also working on a plan, I think simultaneously, or right thereabouts, maybe they've already started, but we will be working with them. Also, you can come to the meetings, okay, and you can do a survey, and it'll be recorded and considered. And one more thing I was going to say. Bobby, do you have any? That's what I was gonna say. One of the elements that, can't remember if it was up there or not, is intergovernmental cooperation and intergovernmental relationships. I've heard already more than once during this one city council meeting, there are issues there, and that is something that probably might be, maybe should be addressed as part of the comprehensive plan. It's not immediately gonna resolve itself, but it could be something that's part of a work program or a policy between, the city has to work better with the county and vice versa.
All right, well, okay, you answered my question, but again, I just want to state for the record, I am very disappointed that there is no county representatives here to see I mean, they're not here for everything. There's a lot of things going on. But this is one major thing with that subdivision that's going to be happening, and I would like to see some representation. I've asked, and I hear. Thank you very much.
Yes, sir.
You do,
Thank you, Mr. Priscilla.
let me correct you. You do have a county commissioner here, whether you overlooked him or not. That's, Kirkland Dixon is back there in the back. That is a county
Hey,
commissioner.
Kirkland, I'm sorry, I didn't see you. We don't usually make him, he just comes in and sits where he wants. Thank you, Mr. Marcello. Thank you, Kirkland, for being here.
Mayor, I'd also like to, Mr. Goga, that spoke a few minutes ago, is very involved with the arts and music community in the here in Monroe. Certainly encourage you to be involved with these meetings representing that segment of the community.
Absolutely, and he makes a mean harp and plays a mean harp.
He can play a harp very well, yeah.
Is there anyone here who would like to speak against the plan? Hearing nothing, I'll declare that portion of the meeting closed. We will revisit in just a moment. Moving to the new business, this is the annexation of 1167 Gulfview Terrace and Oakland Ridge. This will be known as the She Shed lot. I'll open the floor to council members only for discussion.
I have a motion, Mr. Mayor.
Yes, sir. I have a motion by
Move
Mr.
to
Dickinson.
annex the property.
Second.
I have a motion and a second by Mr. Gregory. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, like sign. Motion carries, that passes. Thank you, Ms. Goga. Moving to the rezone of 1167 Gulfview Terrace in Oakview, in Oakland Ridge. This is just the rezone.
Move to approve.
rezone.
I have a motion by Mr. Gregory and a second by Mr. Dickinson. Is that correct?
That works.
Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, like sign. Motion carries, that passes. Thank you again, Mr. and Mrs. Goga.
Now
Thank
she
you.
can go and get her permit.
Yes, you could get your permit tomorrow. And thank you for letting your son serve us, by the way. He's a good man. You did well. Move to the conditional use of 611 Davis Street. I'll open the floor to the council members only for discussion and/or action.
I move to approve.
A motion to approve by Mr. Gregory.
Second.
Second to approve by Mr. Little. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, like sign. Motion carries, that passes. Moving to the Monroe Corridor Commission Appeal of 1000 East Spring Street. I'll open the floor to council members only for discussion or questions.
Mayor, I move the appeal be upheld and awarded, to the applicant as presented tonight by Judge Benton.
I have a motion to approve overturning the certificate of appropriateness. Denial. Sorry, I have a motion. Is there a
I'll
second?
second that. Or,
I have a motion by Mr. Garrett. I'm sorry, second by Mr. Garrett. Is there any discussion?
Just point of clarification, can we get clarification on that motion for the record, please?
Yes, this is to uphold the appeal of the denial. So this would be to overturn.
To overturn the denial of the certificate of appropriateness of the applicant. Okay, thank you.
I have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
aye.
All opposed, like sign. Motion carries, that passes. Thank you, sir. Moving to the COA demolition appeal of 1238 South Madison Avenue. This was tabled from last month, I believe last month. Mr. Kelly?
Yes, sir, that's correct. The HPC heard the motion for, application for demolition on that property. There are two houses on the property. They approved one that faces on 8th Street and denied the other at this address, 1238 South Madison Avenue.
Okay, prior to council discussion amongst themselves, do you have any questions for the Parkers? Hearing none, and with this will be no further presentation tonight.
Okay.
Hearing none, I'll open the floor to council members for discussion.
Mr. Mayor, I've looked at this thing in great detail, and I had a lot of comments and questions when we were here last, and either made the motion to table it or made the second, I can't remember. But this is what concerns me about it. The HPC is not just a city entity. HPCs are created by state law, and when a city decides to have one, all we do is say, okay, we agree with the state law, we give the approval. The regulations are actually in the state code in Title 44. And what I'm really concerned about on this case is the question came up as to whether or not the commission followed the set of criteria in making its decision. We don't have a record. We don't know. The applicants did not have a court reporter there to make a record. Apparently, the city didn't provide recording for it. There's no written statement from the HPC. So it's like we're just operating in the dark. This body, the HPC, is markedly different from something like the Corridor Overlay Commission, which really doesn't have that state statutory authority. It's purely a creature of the city. It's like an administrative board that we create. So it has no ultimate power to make a decision, essentially. That power, under the Georgia Constitution and under Georgia statutes, vests exclusively with this body. So essentially, it's just a recommending body. That's not true of the HPC, not at all. Totally different standard. And when I looked at the state statute, and I'm going to read you something, this is out of Title 44, it's Section 44-10-28. And it basically says that when the HPC rejects an application, and I take that to mean any application, whether it's for a COA or demolition or whatever, it shall state its reasons for doing so and shall transmit a record of such action and the reasons therefore in writing to the applicant. Was that done? No, it wasn't. So, very unusual move here, because the statutes don't really address it, and certainly our local ordinance doesn't address it. But what I'm going to do is make a motion to remand this matter to the HPC to do it the correct way. We're not telling them what to do, how to do it. They just need to do it the right way. They need to make a record of it. They meet in this room. They certainly have the ability to record it. They certainly have the ability to issue what I think is a mandated written opinion as to why they're doing what they're doing. I think it's a matter of fundamental due process. And unfortunately, I think the city we don't have a lot of these, and probably never had this exact issue come up on one. So we learn as we go along. So, Mr. Mayor, I asked Mr. Rosenthal about this. There's no prohibition to this body remanding it for what I think would be the proper procedure. And then they do whatever they do, done it in what I think is the appropriate manner.
I have a motion
I'm
on
going
the
to make
floor.
a motion.
No, sir. Have a motion on the floor.
The motion would be to remand it to the HPC.
Is there a second?
I second that.
You can amend it if you want.
Would you like to amend?
I don't understand why we trying to hold them, basically punish them for something that you saying a board didn't do their job for. Explain that to me.
Well, that's not what we're doing. I'm saying they just didn't follow the correct procedure, and this body has to find that there was some sort of abuse of discretion, and they haven't done anything yet. They just didn't do the procedure correctly. Whether they don't know that or not, I don't know.
My thoughts is he's saying that they didn't follow procedure. It's basically
Well,
the
I don't
same
know whether
thing
they
you
did or
saying they
not.
didn't
We don't
follow
have a record.
procedure.
So I don't know if they did or not.
But if they're not following procedure, that we shouldn't take the blame for what they did or didn't do and hold them accountable for something that should or should not have been done a couple of months ago.
I don't think I don't think that's what it's about. I just think they need.
I do understand where Mr. Garrett's coming from, but to cross the Ts and dot the Is, I have a motion on the floor and I have a second. Is there any further discussion?
I have a question, Mr. Dickinson, with the research he's done. Should your motion be approved, and should it be remanded back, and should the commission issue a written denial, could then that, under the statute, could these applicants then bring it back
Yes,
to the county
absolutely.
for further
That's what
appeal?
that's what I said.
Okay, that's one question. Second question I've got is, since we don't have documentation of the reason for denial, if your motion is defeated and another motion was made to uphold the appeal that these people are doing, could we do it, could that be done with the condition that it goes back before the HCC commission for another ruling? But just, since it was not followed, I'm trying to go with what Mr. Garrett just said. Since they didn't follow procedure, if we said, since they didn't follow it, we're going to uphold the appeal, but we're going to give the commission the opportunity to reconvene over the applicant's thing.
No, sir, Mr. Bradley. Once we either overturn the appeal or not, that's final.
Are we able to speak at all?
No, ma'am, I'm sorry, but unless somebody asks you a specific direct question. So I have a motion and a second, and I have a couple of comments. Do I have any comments on this side?
Well, I would just like to ask the applicant, have any of your plans changed between the time you were denied and now? Are you still requesting to remove that structure?
Yes.
Okay.
Motion? Ross?
I don't have any questions.
Nathan? Okay, all in favor of the remand to the HPC signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, like sign.
No, opposed.
1, 2, 3. Okay, try this again. Let's do hand vote. All in favor, raise your hand, please. 1, 2, 3. Okay, all opposed, raise your hand, please. 1, 2, 3, 4. And I had an abstention, Nathan?
I don't know exactly what you're asking.
Are you for sending it back to the historical preservation, or you are for that? Okay, I'm sorry, I didn't see the hand. Well, that's 4-4, and that's the first time I've ever broken a tie. We're not going to send this back to HPC. I would prefer a vote now.
Well, I make a motion to let them go ahead and demolition the house on 1238 on South Madison Avenue.
I have a motion by Mr. Garrett to overturn. Do I have a second? I have a second by Ms. Crawford. Is there any further discussion? All in,
I'm just going to state that I am in opposition to you doing that. And the reason being because we have other structures in the city that this will set a precedent for. And I feel that we will just open a tirade of requests in this respect. And historical structures that are still intact need to be preserved. And for too long, this city ignored that. And we are charged to protect those historic structures in our city.
all in,
Have you pursued any options of moving the structure, giving it to someone else who might be interested in it?
No, we haven't. The foundation is in poor shape. The floor structure is in poor shape. I don't know that it would survive a move, but I have not entertained that.
Well, it's falling apart now.
Right.
Barely standing up now. So to actually move it, and there's some hazardous materials there. So it's a lot going on with that home. And to move it, I don't think it would move an inch without caving in.
I mean, to me, this all just seems kind of like we're going around the mountain for no reason. I mean, the procedures weren't held, weren't followed, and to me, that seems like a reason to I mean, we can remand it back to HPC, but
No,
we're
we
gonna be
can't.
back here.
No, not now.
Theoretically, we could
Right.
remand it back to HPC, but we'll be back here again in however many months. It just, I don't know if it's worth dragging this thing down the road.
So I have a motion by Mr. Garrett and a second. Is there any further discussion?
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, I have a question for council. So, since the problem is procedural, the fact that we don't have any information from HPC, would that be something that we can use so that it doesn't open the floodgates on things like this? Is
I
it?
don't think we had any, when we denied other structures, we didn't have anything. We've never had anything. So the only thing we can do is address this as it stands today, in my unlegal opinion, and move forward with a charge to establish protocol for the HPC and any new requests coming forward, that documentation be recorded as to reasoning for denial or approval.
I definitely agree with that, and that's something that I would like to address after this, if that's the case. But I just wanted to hear if perhaps we got any legal protection because of the way that this is playing out.
Well, what I'll tell you is this, is that the standard of review that you have here before you is abuse of discretion, which is a pretty high bar, as we discussed last time. You have to look to see whether or not the processes that they followed were abused in any way. It gets to a technical point, and no realistic fault of the applicant, but a very technical fault of the applicant here, the appellant here, is the only record you have below is that which was transmitted up to you. You're almost serving as an appellate court. You can't add new evidence. You can't step in the place of the trier of fact here. And so if there was a need for a record, that is upon the appellant to provide that. So if they have record of below, they can provide it to you. You don't have that here. So are there some technical issues that you have before you? Yes. What you have before you is an appeal. That appeal is governed by an abuse of discretion standard, which is a pretty high standard to overcome. You have to find sort of a pretty egregious wronging of a decision made, whether or not procedure was followed or not. So you don't know whether or not that commission looked at the guidelines and the criteria and those sort of things. You don't have a written record of it other than that that the certificate of appropriateness was denied by a properly motioned action by that commission at a properly noticed meeting. That's what you've got before you. So unfortunately, I can't give you every answer you want to hear, Ms. Gregory, but I do think that you've got it before you, and now you have a motion on the floor to reverse their denial of the certificate of appropriateness, which would allow for the demolition of the historic structure to go forward.
Thank you, Mr. Rosenthal.
Correct. All in favor of overturning the denial of the Historical Preservation Society? Let's do hands again, please. All in favor? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. All opposed? Motion carries 6-2. Mr. and Ms. Parker, thank you for coming in. And thank you for your patience. And thank you for actually helping us to move forward in a little more educated manner.
Thank you.
All right. Best of luck. Moving to preliminary plat review, River Point. They have asked that we table that for this month, and we will revisit that. As planned right now, it's on the schedule to be on the agenda for January.
Yeah, I just want to make that point clear. Mr. Clay Kirkley, representing Meritage Homes, is the new owner of this property, and they've requested a 1-month tabling to the January 11th council meeting in order to give us time to continue our negotiations on the development agreement component of the preliminary plat.
Thank you, Mr.
You said new owner, or they,
New owner, yes. So that,
how long have they been owners?
Less than a month.
5 minutes after the
just a
first
few
owner
days,
became
basically.
owner.
Yeah.
Less than a month.
If they were not the owners at the time of the moratorium,
It's,
can
their
it
rights
go-
have,
can it go forward?
their rights have been determined to be transferable, if that's correct still, Mr. Rosenthal.
Yeah, that's correct. The application for preliminary plat was filed prior to the moratorium being put in place. Transfer of ownership would not negate that application.
Moving to the preliminary plat review, 318 Alcove Street, Veterans Walk.
We get a motion for the tabling.
Yes, you need a motion.
I'm
Motion
sorry, thank you. I have a
to
motion
table
by Ms.
River Point.
Malcolm,
Second.
second by Mr. Gregory. Thank you, Mr. Probst. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, like sign. Motion carries. We'll table that to next month. Moving to the preliminary plat review, 318 Alcove Street, Veterans Walk. Mr. Kelly.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, preliminary plat for that property at 318 Alcove Street is in order. Staff recommends approval of this preliminary plat, subject to the 2 corrections listed in the staff report. One of them related to street names. I'm sorry, the second one escapes me at the moment, but they're both listed there. Oh, removing a signature block that was unnecessary on the plat. Again, staff recommends approval, as does planning.
We didn't understand you, Patrick.
I'm sorry, I'm leaning in.
Repeat the whole thing. I'm sorry, please.
Okay, the applicant has got a preliminary plat that is in order, and the staff and the Planning and Zoning Commission recommend approval. There's 2 conditions that we are recommending approval, conditioned upon changing street names and removal of a signature block that was unnecessary.
Thank you, Mr. Kelly. Are there any questions for Patrick?
And Mayor and Council, just again for the record, this is a property and an entity of which I am involved and a primary owner. So my office would not be able to provide any legal advice because I have a technical and an ethical conflict. And so should the council require any legal advice concerning this matter, then it would be incumbent upon Mr. Probst to conflict counsel to provide legal counsel to the city should you need it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Rosenthal. I'll entertain a motion.
Move to approve.
Motion by Mr. Dickinson to approve,
Second.
second by Mr. Gregory. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, like sign. Motion carries, that passes. Moving to the preliminary plat review for 0 Charlotte Route Boulevard, Monroe Pavilion. Mr. Kelly?
Yes, sir. This plat is also in order for MAB Monroe LLC and the other listed partners on this application. Staff recommends approval of preliminary plat. We had 8 corrections on the original recommendation. I believe those have all been made, and the plat is in order and actually ready to be signed as soon as we.
Thank you. Are there any
Or deny.
questions for Mr. Kelly? I'll entertain a motion.
Move to approve.
A motion by Mr. Dickinson. Is there a second?
Second.
A second by Ms. Malcolm. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, like sign. Motion carries, that passes. Moving to the application of beer and wine package sales at the Food Mart Monroe. Mr. Rosenthal?
That application is in order, Mayor.
Thank you. As the business owner here. You can probably just stand there. I don't think we're going to need anything, but just in case. Are there any questions, or may I entertain a motion?
Motion to approve.
I have a motion by Mr. Garrett. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Ms. Malcolm. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, like sign. Motion carries. That passes. Thank you, gentlemen. Moving to the application for beer and wine package sales at Publix. I have April Dawn and Bondi McClatchy, the applicants. Are you here? Welcome, thank you for coming. Would you like to speak? Is there anything you'd like to say? It's pretty slam dunk, sorry. I'll entertain a motion.
Move to approve.
Second, the third, whatever.
I'm going to go with Ms. Malcolm on the motion and the second, Mr. Gregory.
Sounds great.
Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, like sign. Motion carries, that passes. Thank you for coming. Moving to the appointments of the Downtown Development Authority and Convention and Visitors Bureau Authority and Urban Redevelopment Agency. We have 3 appointments expiring December 31st. First, Ms. Meredith Malcolm would like to continue to serve on the Downtown Development Authority and Convention and Visitors Bureau and Urban Redevelopment Agency. And I need a motion to reappoint Ms. Meredith Malcolm for a 3-year term to expire December 31st, 2024.
Move to approve.
Second.
I have a motion by Mr. Gregory and a second by Mr. Larry Bradley. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, like sign. Motion carries, that passes. Moving to Mr. Chris Collin, he would like to continue to serve on the Downtown Development Authority and Convention and Visitors Bureau and Urban Redevelopment Agency. I need a motion to reappoint him, Mr. Collin, for a 3-year term to expire December 31st, 2024.
Move to approve.
I have a motion by Mr. Dickinson and a second.
Second.
Second by Mr. Gregory. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, like sign. Motion carries, that passes. Third.
This next one, I'd like to recuse myself from the vote.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Third, Mr. Ross Bradley has applied to fill the vacant position to be left by Mr. Charles Sanders, whose term will expire on December 31st, 2021, on the Downtown Development Authority and Convention and Visitors Bureau Authority and Urban Redevelopment Agency. And I need a motion to appoint Mr. Ross Bradley for a 3-year term to expire December 31st,
Move to approve.
2024. Mr. Tyler Gregory with a motion.
I think I would like to move to amend that motion to say this will be approved by acclamation from this council tonight for the fine gentleman, Mr. Bradley.
Yes, sir, we'll make that amendment. And would you say that one more time?
Yeah, we approve that by acclamation from the council.
Absolutely, thank you. Is there any discussion? Do I need a second to his amendment? If so, Ms. Malcolm, would you give me a second?
Oh, yeah, second.
Is there any discussion? So moved, like sign, everybody go. 1, 2, 3.
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bradley. Thank you, Mr. Bradley. Tonight's second reading for the zoning ordinance code text amendment number 12, Mr. Rosenthal.
Thank you, Mayor. This is an ordinance to amend the zoning ordinance of the City of Monroe, Georgia. The mayor and city council of Monroe hereby ordain as follows. The zoning ordinance of the City of Monroe, officially adopted June 10, 2014, effective July 1, 2014, as thereafter amended, is hereby amended by implementing the text amendments and changes outlined and identified in particular on Exhibit A, which such exhibit is incorporated herein by reference. Exhibit A, amendment number 12. Number 1, Section 630.3, Table 6, Industrial Zoning District Land Use Regulations, modifying industrial zoning district land use table to add under the principal use of utility and area service provider facilities for private sewage treatment facilities uses to be added as conditional use. Number 2 change is Section 650.4, Special Site Requirements, modifying the special site requirements for planned development districts to remove the minimum area requirement for planned development districts throughout the city and inside the livable cities initiatives district, and to reduce the minimum frontage requirement for planned development districts located inside the LCI district. Section 650.4 to be as amended as follows. The site proposed for planned development district classification must abut a public street for a continuous distance of at least 100 feet. The only exception to this frontage requirement shall be in the livable cities initiative district because of the special and unique circumstances of both maximum density and unique mixture of land uses within the LCI district. Proposals for planned development district classifications in the LCI district must abut a public street for a distance of at least 50 feet. All ordinances or parts of ordinances in conflict herewith are hereby repealed. These text amendments to the City of Monroe zoning ordinance shall take effect upon their adoption by the mayor and council. This constitutes the second reading this 14th day of December, Mayor.
Are there any questions for Mr. Rosenthal? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion.
So moved.
I have a motion, was that you, Ross?
Yes, sir.
A motion by Mr. Ross Bradley, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Gregory, any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, like sign. Motion carries, that passes. Moving to the approval of the 2022 budget resolution, Mr. Rosenthal.
Thank you, Mayor. This is a resolution adopting the 2022 budget for the City of Monroe, Georgia, appropriating amounts as shown in each budget as expenditures and adopting the revenue projections and prohibiting expenditures to exceed appropriations. Be it resolved by the Mayor and City Council of the City of Monroe, Georgia as follows. Whereas for the purpose of financing the conduct of affairs of the City of Monroe during the fiscal year beginning January 1, 2022 and ending December 31, 2022, the budget of the city's revenues and expenditures for such period as prepared and submitted to the City Council by the city administrator and so approved by the mayor and city council. And whereas the amounts listed are the appropriations so authorized by the mayor and council and are approved for the amounts and purposes indicated. And whereas any pay classification or job description changes contained and funded herein of the budget are approved for the amounts and purposes indicated. And whereas any organizational chart changes or descriptions contained herein within the budget are approved as indicated. And whereas the rates listed are so authorized by the mayor and city council and are approved for the amounts and purposes indicated. And whereas a budget amendment is considered any action of the mayor and city council to purchase items not included in original budgeted figures, be it further resolved that the expenditures shall not exceed appropriations authorized by this budget, and that the expenditures for the fiscal year shall not exceed funding available. So adopted by the mayor and council this 14th day of December 2021. That is the resolution, Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Rosenthal. Any questions for Paul? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion.
Move to approve.
A motion by Mr. Tyler Gregory to approve and a second by Mr. Ross Bradley. Is there any discussion? Everybody got to review it and everything. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, like sign. Motion carries, that passes. Moving to the resolution of the Northeast Georgia Regional Solid Waste Management Plan, Mr. Rosenthal.
Thank you, Mayor. This is a resolution to adopt the Northeast Georgia Regional Solid Waste Management Plan, whereas the Georgia General Assembly enacted the Georgia Comprehensive Solid Waste Management Act as amended in 2011, which requires county and municipal governments to develop or be included in a comprehensive solid waste management plan. And whereas the update of the Northeast Georgia Regional Solid Waste Management Plan has been prepared on behalf of and includes the solid waste management plans of all municipalities within the jurisdiction of the Northeast Georgia Regional Solid Waste Management Authority. And whereas the update of the Northeast Georgia Regional Solid Waste Management Plan has been prepared in compliance with the Georgia Comprehensive Solid Waste Management Act as amended in 2011, and the minimum public participation and other procedural requirements have been met or exceeded, now therefore be it resolved by the mayor and the city council of the city of Monroe that the update of the Northeast Georgia Regional Solid Waste Management Plan is accepted, and furthermore, that the Northeast Georgia Regional Commission shall be notified of said adoption in writing within 5 days of the adoption of this resolution. So adopted this 14th day of December 2021. That is the resolution, Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Rosenthal. Are there any questions for Mr. Smith or Mr. Rosenthal? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion.
Move to approve.
A motion by Mr. Larry Bradley to approve. Is there a second?
Second.
Is that you, Mr. Little?
Ross.
Ross. Second by Mr. Ross Bradley. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, like sign. Motion carries, that passes. Mr. Probst, 2022 council meeting schedule.
Yeah, as discussed last week, we're gonna set our, annual, meeting calendar for the second Tuesday of each month per the Code of Ordinances, section 241. And then, that'll be a one, meeting per month schedule, unless we have some items of general magnitude, which we will reserve our first Tuesday for the committees.
Thank you, Mr. Probst. Are there any questions for Logan?
I have a question, just the intent, I guess, on the, let's assume that one of the committees has an action item that they need to address as a committee. Is it the intent of this that that committee would call that meeting for the first Tuesday in the month, but it would only be that one committee meeting?
Correct, yes. Just a chance to iron out all those details.
That's what I thought, but I
before
just
it
wanted to
was
clarify.
recommended to the full council. Yes, sir.
Are there any other questions or comments? I'll entertain a motion.
Motion to approve.
I have a motion by Ms. Crawford to approve and a second by Mr. Garrett. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, like sign. Motion carries, that passes. Moving to my update, I'll be fairly brief, and I know that usually makes y'all happy. Ross, I appreciate your service, man, 4 years. We came in together. You are, you're the spirit of Monroe, and I appreciate you.
Thank you, Mayor.
Next month, we'll have committee changes and assignments. Our meeting will be on January 11th, And tomorrow, there's Christmas at Hollander Senior Living on 78. We've all been invited. It's at 2 o'clock. So if you can make it, that'd be great. They did not ask me to play Santa. They didn't say anything about my bowl full of jelly. And I'll now entertain a motion to adjourn, please.
So moved.
A motion by Mr. Ross Bradley and a second by Mr. Garrett. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, like sign. Motion carries, that passes. Thank you, everybody. Good night.